Hello, everyone. Happy Magnificent Monday. We are just getting started here. Have a few people coming in as guests that we are going to have on with us today. Super grateful to have my sister joining us. We've got several more people chiming in. As always, if you are coming in on the webinar and you want to join us on video, go ahead and raise your hand so that I can bring you on with us. Hi, my beautiful
Hi.
sister and Allison. So good to see you both. Happy Monday.
It is Monday.
It is Monday. It's the end of both of your, well, towards the end of both of your Mondays, right? Oh, I love it. So Audra, Ward, anyone else that's joined in, if you want to be brought on video, just go ahead and raise your hand and I will bring you on video. If you do not, totally fine. You can hang out in the background. Happy to have you guys here. On this Monday, we have so many things going on in our world, still, obviously, right? But we are starting in the US and a few other countries, we are in this phase of reopening. And so today is our new format at our new time. It's a 30-minute format, and so we're gonna kind of get down to business. And we've moved it to 3:30 p.m. Pacific time to try to accommodate for school schedules, so that those of you that are working in classrooms and in school buildings, you actually have an opportunity to join us live versus just having to watch the recording. So super happy that you guys are here with me. So appreciate it. But as we start everything, I cannot start any meeting without gratitude. So if you guys can just go ahead and type in the chat, what are you grateful for in this moment when it comes to education? What are you grateful for in this moment when it comes to education? And if you want to go ahead, and those of you that are watching the live stream on Facebook, if you want to go ahead and just type in the comments there, Melissa's going to be moderating those comments while I'm doing the chat in Zoom. So Audra, patience, yes. Kudos to you for having a lot of that right now. I know there's so much that tests that patience. And in Stace community, yeah, I think I would agree with you. I am most grateful for communities like this one and all of us coming together and sticking together so that when we are having a rough time that we know we can lean on each other. And Allison, grace, yes, for sure, absolutely. And definitely when you guys are chiming in the chat, make sure you're chatting to all panelists and attendees so that everyone can see your comments. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let's talk about uncertainty. Let's kind of define that word. So when we think about uncertainty, let's look at it holistically, right? Just the word uncertainty. What comes to mind for you guys? Or to unpack.
Lack of control.
Lack of control. Yeah. What else? You guys can just be off mute if you. What energy does uncertainty carry? I'm feeling it. Even saying that word, what energy does it carry?
A negative
kind
energy.
of, yeah, when it's fuzzy, foggy kind of. Well, you know, like walking into a fog, you don't know what's behind it or in it. And then there's all these horror movies where something happens that's not pretty.
Yeah.
Ambiguity. It's that uncertain.
Yeah. And Melissa, anxiety and panic, right? And so, Stace, when we think about the stress hormones that are caused by that, what are they and what happens to our bodies?
You get a surge of cortisol during any type of stressful moment, which is that beautiful stress hormone. And that tends to overtake your brain. And then you're going to go into fight, flight, or freeze mode, which I think is where a number of educators are when they're confronted with these new plans, because it's almost unfathomable to think about moving forward and not really having any experience to rely on as we move ahead.
Well, and I would even say that some of this is, we're habitual creatures. The fact that we go to a place where we've been hurt before, or we know that things could go wrong, or that we've hoped for something and it's been disappointing. So we, that whole prepare for the worst, expect for the best. We teachers are as flexible as you could possibly be. We have to be. We don't have a choice. But this is a kind of flexibility that, in my lifetime, I haven't seen, not even as a student.
Right. Allison, what about for you?
Yeah, today I actually met with all of my staff and we talked about the only certainty in education is uncertainty. We live in that, but this uncertainty is bigger than anything that we've encountered before. You deal with broken arms and sick kids in a general sense all the time, or things, mandates happen on Monday and you have to implement it by Friday. But this is something that we really haven't encountered before. And so really being mindful of each other and anyone that's coming into our educational space as having these little trauma tsunamis, and it shows up in different ways. So we really have to be mindful of, is that showing up in me right now? Because I'm not even reacting how I normally would. So it's just really, we had to kind of dive in and that's why I put grace there, because we have to give ourselves and others grace to be coming into that, with this uncertainty.
For sure. Ward, what about for you? What's it like right now in your world?
It's a little chaotic. We had to recreate our schedules. The schedules were all created, and then the school board decided that they were going to change things up. So we had to recreate the schedules, and so yeah, it's a little stressful at the moment.
Yeah. And I think that that's another coping mechanism, if I may be so bold, Ward, is that as educators, you downplay it. And I've been in this world for 10 years as a coach and a consultant for educators at all levels. And it's one of the kind of standard operating procedures for you guys is to downplay what's actually going on for you. And when you minimize, and Stace, if you'll speak to this too, when you minimize what's actually happening for you, Stace, what actually happens on a cellular level and to our brains when we do that?
Well, it's definitely a coping strategy and a way to make everything feel more manageable. I mean, that's why we do it. We put it into play as to not being as great as it is. So there's this cognitive dissonance that's going on. But I think the unfortunate piece is that then we're not clear about what we need in the moment. And we may not be communicating the level of stress that we're currently experiencing, whether that come from a place of, oh, I don't want to overly burden you, so I'm going to keep it to myself, or I don't want to appear as I can't handle it, so I don't want to communicate that. And I think specifically for teachers, because especially in legislation, they have been treated as the ones who have to manage it all. They are the end stop. They will only receive credibility and extra funding or bonuses based upon the fact that they handled it all,
Right.
as opposed to this larger group of support. So I think it's just going to be important for us to communicate, downplay it as we need to, because we're all making changes, but then be honest with our inner circle of people about how much this is really impacting us.
Right. And I think that that's one of the biggest things when we talk about, being grateful for community is, shifting the conversation to what we can do. What are the healthy strategies and tools that are at our disposal that we may or may not be seeing because we are in fight, flight, or freeze. And it's like we're, you know, they talk about walking pneumonia, right? We're like walking trauma tsunamis, Allison, to use your phrase. And if we're walking trauma tsunamis, we may miss the hand that's right there to say, I got you.
Well, it's so crazy because I think about the fact that a sign of maturity is supposed to be knowing when too much is too much. When I was a waitress a long time ago, I didn't know how many tables were too many tables, and I didn't want anyone to think that I couldn't handle it. And that was a clear sign, especially as I, you know, went into college, and waiting tables was a good way to make some money while I was being educated. But as you did it for a length of time, you started to notice new wait staff, and that's how we teachers notice a new teacher. They're taking on way too much. So my point being is that when we think about our resources that are available to us, we're also role models for kids. We're constantly showing them what they need to be able to be, you know, secure in society. And if we're not being truthful with our needs, what are we emulating to our kids? I mean, we're always breaking it down for them, but then are we allowing ourselves to take advantage of the same and to say, listen, as a sign of maturity, I can't do this without assistance. I mean, it's supposed to be part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead,
I
Allison.
think that's so, I've been listening to webinars and all kinds of things, and I actually got Trauma Tsunami from someone who just presented, but kind of what Audra was saying, you know, we get this whole, like, you come into education and it's like, you fake it till you make it. And so we just keep going that way. And it's like, Stacy and I have worked a bit with students at my school on self-awareness and self-regulation, but we sit down and we're like, wait, but teachers don't even necessarily have the time to be self-aware. And they haven't worked on their own social, emotional needs. And so you get a teacher, they can teach, you know, that's what they're doing. But to be that model of it, you know, it takes time. And if you talk to any teacher, what do they want more of is time. And so not being able to devote time to yourself is something that we all struggle with. I've been in this forever, you know, and trying to make that a priority sometimes makes you feel guilty when you're an educator because you're giving something else up. And so I think that's a really, like Audra said that, and I was like, yeah, they tell us to fake it till you make it, you know? And that's what we just keep doing because you just get in that routine of it. But then did I even learn how to be self-aware? You know, if I didn't have that at some point in my life, I'm just teaching lessons about it, but I'm not actually living it.
What's the cost of that? What's the cost of staying in that space?
Burnout, anxiety. I could list a lot of things. Someone cut me off.
Like last week, we were talking about how it affected the health of some. Like there's so many teachers that are not cognizantly aware, even though we are. It's funny how we are deep down. We don't know how to reach to a place where we can be healthy. I mean, think about how many times we're rewarded with candy or donuts, or every time it's Teacher Appreciation Week, all we get is food. And it's like, could I just get a pack of copy paper and some markers?
Yeah. Yeah.
Say that a lot of teachers, a lot of administrators, a lot of school district people were stressed out. I always wondered if I could like call Teachers Health Trust and they could tell me how many of us are actually clinically depressed or have clinical anxiety disorders. I bet it would be huge. And I think that is, again, because we don't take care of ourselves. We're always putting our students ahead of our needs and whatnot. And then you get the stress from the district and everything on top of that. But mental
Not
health,
to mention not being treated like a team player. Remember, like if you do stand up for yourself or complain, you're seen as someone that like you're always arguing for union rights and that you're, you know, you're just being difficult and you're not a team player. I mean, right, Ward?
yeah, I think so. You get labeled that person, and that's a shame. Because again, if we're not healthy, then how can we be good to our students or anybody else?
And how can you be role models for them to actually change the patterns and the habits for future generations so that we can actually be healthy humans? Like
Exactly.
when is enough enough? When, as educators, as a tribe of humans that offer so much value in this world, when are we going to create this big enough tribe where we go, no more? No more. We're taking our power back. We're owning the value that we have in this world, and we get to do it from a healthy place. We get to design this new system of education the way that serves us so we can serve our students best. Like, how do we get to that tipping point so that we actually value educators the way that you are meant to be valued in this world for the beautiful wisdom and grace and love and compassion and caring and everything that you bring to the table to inspire and ignite the inner genius in young people around the world? When are we going to get to that critical mass and go, enough? We are stronger together, and we're going to actually revolutionize education, because we can't keep doing it the way that we've done it for hundreds of years. That does not work anymore.
September 23rd, 2023.
High five. That's a
I was
trade.
gonna say, you know, it's hard because I think we just always think like someone's gonna get up into like Washington D.C. and make this new bill and all the things, and it's like you watched the beginning of the pandemic. Everyone was like, teachers, oh my gosh, they're amazing. How do they do this? I have my kid and I have my computer and I can't do it. And what is it like now? Sit down, be quiet, get back to your job. This is what you signed up for. And so the shift happened so quickly. And, you know, it's like we're waiting for someone to do this for us. And I think it starts with a couple things that we've already mentioned, is becoming self-aware and going, oh my gosh, look what's happening to me from doing this. And then having those conversations. Today, I told my staff, I'm like, listen, this new wild craze with Bitmoji, Google Classrooms, I'm like, it's awesome. I got sucked into it. I made a coach classroom, but it's one of those things that you feel this pressure, like, oh, look, everyone else is doing it, so now I have to do it, or else I don't look like the right teacher that's on trend and like on board and ready to do what everybody else is doing. But is that right now what's going to be for your best good? Like, is that what's going to get you to the point of feeling ready and okay? If it is, if it's a, you know, this is making me happy right now, go for it, all about it. But if it's something that's added to your plate that you're like, okay, wait, I didn't get all these other things ready or together, or even give myself my own time, you know, so we have to start having those conversations with each other and saying, it's okay, making things okay to not jump on board and go crazy with things that haven't even been, you know, put out there that for success.
How do we shift that mindset out of education? Because it's been there for so long. It's almost like, well, we've always done it that way, to wait for mandates to happen in order to make a change, or to wait for someone to give us permission, or to wait for the knight in shining armor to go to the legislature and go, no more, this is, you know, we now have a Secretary of Education. You know, unfortunately my niece is not old enough yet, but she's working on it. Stacy's daughter. We're, anyone out there, like, Sabina, if you're ever watching this, you're going to get there and you're going to change it. But we need to change it now. Like, and it's going to take educators who actually stand up and unite as a community and go, you know what? We're going to go join the education revolution globally, and we're going to create our own online curriculum. We're going to create our own micro schools. We're going to create our own camps. We're going to actually do education the way that we know it needs to be done, because we're going to connect with parents that know that there's got to be a better way for their kids. And we're going to fix this because we know how to do it, because educators have the wisdom to do it. And it's a matter of coming together. And it's like, I want to cry and scream and like stand up from the rooftops all at the same time, because it's like, I am going to create this community of conscious educators to show you how many of you there are. If I do nothing else in this lifetime but to put y'all in one place where you can start creating solutions together so that you're reopening, whether it's in this uncertainty or next year's uncertainty or next year's uncertainty after that, that you have each other. You're not waiting for someone to do it for you. Y'all know what to do. I don't necessarily know what to do and what's perfect. No one knows on their own, but I do know that you guys have the wisdom to do it. And I do know that the more you are together, the more you're connected in community, the more you're collaborating with like-minded educators, the more you're creating teams with different brain-wired strengths, the more you're operating from an entrepreneurial mindset versus a wait for it to happen to you mindset, the more we will revolutionize it faster versus waiting for it to go back to normal. Because if we all remember, we all hated normal.
Right.
So
Well, I remember when I taught at University of Phoenix that we talked a little bit about, teaching teachers how to teach, or starting the education program, that there was a mindset of, because not all universities have the flag system to be able to say who should be in this program or not. We know not everybody should be a teacher. There is a personality type. And I would say what would hit me again and again, even though I wasn't one of them, I was one of those students that was consistently not the best kid in the classroom, and that's why I can spot them a mile away, that a lot of teachers, a majority of the teachers that are teachers that are effective, but that want to be teachers, are people that were successful in school. And so when they're successful in school, they don't necessarily want to be rebellious or act up. And so that is that part of them that's counterintuitive sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you need as educators right now? What do you need?
Communication and guidance.
Okay.
That's what I need. Communication and guidance from the board, from the superintendent, to give us like direction on, direction.
What if you don't get it? Then what do you need?
Porsche 911 Carrera, but
yes. And then?
I would say groups like this, like the communication part, knowing that we're not alone, that's a huge step.
yeah, that is comforting. Knowing that having colleagues that you can confide in and work through problems.
Yeah. A tribe to be real with, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was just going to say, like bite-sized self-care strategies, because sometimes it's like, oh, go do yoga. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm stuck in my home and my home doesn't feel like a place I want to do that. Like I need, do some box breathing, take 10 seconds and do some box breathing or whatever it is. But I think there just needs to be this simple but direct, like bite-sized self-care strategies. So not like, here's a huge list of all the things you can do, because then I have to sit and sort and pick and choose. Like, give me one, let me do it, Yeah.
And it's one of the things that we talked about in the Simple and Sustainable Healthy Routines a few Magnificent Mondays back with Melissa, was what are those simple, sustainable things, and how do you create that positive feedback loop in your brain so that you actually will do them over and over again, versus having the proverbial bat and going, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing this. Well, you're not gonna, because you're beating yourself up for not doing it. Like you have to create that positive feedback loop and go, oh my God, I did 15 minutes today, rock on. Like,
especially, let me jump in on that. What I hear very synchronistically across the board with all of you, and based off results in education, the belief system is chaos, stress. The language that I'm hearing is very synchronistic. Chaos, stress, disorder. I mean, you name it over and over again. And when you've been in education for 5 years, 10 years, 15, hell, some even 20 years, guess what happens? That becomes the unconscious belief, and that is why it stays exactly where it's at. It's your norm. So you go to what's safe, familiar, and what's known. But what we've talked about before is what Sandy said about the positive feedback loop. In order to shift that belief and those habits is exactly what you said, Allison. Choose something that is sustainable and easy. So if you want to feel calm or grounded, or as a lot of my stay-at-home moms or educators that I coach, they say, fucking sanity, whatever feeling that you want to feel, ask yourself, what do I want to do today that's going to help me feel that way? And if it's like you said, Allison, I'm just going to turn on my Calm app and breathe, which I had a educator text me yesterday in a hot moment. And she was like, I just need to listen to music and breathe. I said, do it. And then an hour later, she texts me, oh my God, felt fantastic. And the last thing, every time you do that, you have to track your win. Meaning, get your calendar out, write down what you did that made you feel fucking sanity, calm, grounded, and write down, I'm a badass, I did it today. The science shows that when you start tracking those wins, that's when your momentum goes. That's when you do it. And that's when you keep going forward with that. And then you automatically break this unconscious habit of chaos, stress, and this normalcy that has been built into education. Does that make sense? Do what's uncomfortable, do what's unfamiliar, and to create a new pattern, choose simple, like Allison said, and just ask yourself, how do I want to feel? And what is the one behavior that I can start to practice that makes me feel that way? And just keep it that simple and just do that.
My coaches have me just doing 15 minutes of exercise. And my brain goes to, that's not enough. Immediately I go to, that's not enough. So why would I? So then I just don't do anything. And so since March, I have been in this, I don't have time to do an hour to an hour and a half workout. So then I just don't do anything. And, you know, COVID-10 later, I'm like, seriously? Like, not okay anymore. Like, enough, Sandy, enough is enough. Is enough. Like, as soon as you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, then you make the change. And so, but in order for me to create sustainable change while I'm birthing business babies like the Educator to Edupreneur Masterclass and the school virtual school culture circles, 3 of them, and the, you know, Ed Leader Circle, the virtual circle. And so all these things that I'm birthing, and I'm running the Young Entrepreneur Academy with Genius School Global, and I'm running Genius, all the things, right? My work world is not going to slow down. So how do I create sustainable? And so it can't be for me the same thing over and over again. My dynamo brain likes some of the variety. So it's that for 15 minutes, I get to do whatever my body wants to do for 15 minutes. So today it was to run up the street and back down the street. And it was 20 minutes and I was done. And I still haven't done it yet, is to write in my calendar that I did it and I'm a badass. Because the weeks, and I've been doing it for 2 weeks now, Monday through Friday, Saturday and Sunday, I've been like, if I do it, it's bonus. But Monday through Friday, at least 15 minutes every day, I can find 15 minutes to focus on me. And I've just made it that simple. And it's still a challenge. My brain still wants to sabotage me and tell me it's not enough. But every time I do, I go, yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's almost like I tell that Princess Perfect in my brain that tells me it's not enough because it's not perfect. I tell her to sit down, I got this. Like, I literally have this conversation in my brain. I promise I'm not crazy. It's just, it's how all of our brains work, right? So when you have that either Princess Perfect or Super Jock or whatever it is that's sabotaging you from actually feeling good enough or worthy enough or valuable enough or sane enough or whatever it is, tell that voice you're safe and you got it. You don't need them anymore. They served you at one point in time, but they no longer serve you today.
And I just dropped in the comments section a great video that I shared this morning on my Epic Morning Rituals webinar on how do you create this small sustainable habits. And it's by the author, James Clear, who wrote The Atomic Habit. And in this short 8-minute video, he really talks about how to get 1% better every day. And I invite you all to look at that from the lens of self-care, from the lens of calm, grounded, saying yes, saying no for 10, 15 minutes a day, to say hell yes to me, because like you all are saying, you need that. Education has just taught you to go work harder, do this, when at the end of the day, now you're learning how to say me first for a little bit, and that's okay. So I invite you all to check out that video with that lens of what we're talking about today.
Thank you so much, Mel, for dropping that in. And we're gonna wrap up to keep to our 30-minute timeline, which for me as a creator is really hard to do, because I think we could talk about this for a really long time, but we'll be back next Magnificent Monday, really talking about the authentic you and how do you maintain that authentic you while you're reopening in chaos. So that's going to be our topic next Magnificent Monday. But as we wrap, I'd love to hear kind of your one nugget of takeaway from this call from each of you that are on video. So Audrey, you want to go first?
Yeah, I just thought about how my colleague Marcus, we work together all the time, and every time he says he doesn't understand why something's not working, I say to him, you have control over your world. And it's so funny how I forget sometimes to apply that to myself, but it's that ability to have more control than we realize, and Melissa helped with that.
Love it. Awesome, Audra. Ward, what about you? What's your nugget of takeaway?
My nugget of take it away is that I need to get out of my office, go home, and relax and play some piano.
Yes. I love it. Allison, what about you?
That's okay to take 15 minutes for myself every day, and it's better to do that 15 minutes than tell myself it's not enough.
Yes. And I will be your buddy if you want to text me. Stace, what about you?
I think it's important to remember that even after a long day, reconnecting with your community is vital and important, because it's rejuvenating in a way, right? Tomorrow I'm giving a professional development for teachers on self-care. And so even Melissa's little piece on, okay, write the wins down. Okay, I'm going to make sure that tomorrow we mention write the wins down as part of our overall self-care package, and just being able to connect and having opportunities to collaborate, I think, is essential even when we're exhausted.
Absolutely. Melissa, what's your nugget of takeaway from this call?
My nugget of takeaway is there's one thing that we all have in common. We matter. And until we start acting like we do, nothing else will matter. Your health is your #1 wealth. Be at the level of putting yourself as some form of a priority every single day, because at some point, if you don't, you will break. And then how can you impact the beautiful children that you do every day? They need you. So you matter.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I so appreciate each of you for showing up for yourself during these 30 minutes, because these calls are about you. And I invite you to continue to participate in the Conscious Educator Circle. Join the Educator to Edupreneur Masterclass. We have shifted the pricing. I haven't looked yet today to see if the website is updated, but we actually reduced the price on the entire masterclass. And it is all 12 micro classes. It is 20+ handouts, resources, downloads for you. You can go at your own pace, and we've dropped the price to $197 for you guys. So it is your masterclass. You take care of yourself. You're worth it, and you matter, and anything I can do to support you, I'm here. Reach out, let me know what you need, and we will see you next Magnificent Monday. Love you all. Bye, everyone.